Without objection, we'll revert to messages from the Senate.
A message from the Senate, Madam Speaker. I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following Senate file herewith transmitted. Senate file number 2226. Message assigned Cal R. Ludeman, Secretary of the Senate.
First reading of Senate files.
First reading of Senate file number 2226, an act relating to agriculture. Poppy moved that Senate file number 2226 and House file number 2200, now on the General Register, be referred to the Chief Clerk for comparison.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. The next bill on the calendar for the day is House File 2208. The clerk will report the bill.
House file number 2208, number 1 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to state government, the second engrossment.
The member from Ramsey, Representative Mahoney, to the bill.
I'll get that.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members. First off, I actually do want to thank my staff. They've been great.
There's that.
They've kept up.
Got your
Actually, they've been ahead. And they've given me excellent suggestions. Even the pages. Chloe Burns and Kyle Roach. Solveig Becker, my fiscal analyst. Anna Shalene, House Research. Ben Weeks in House Research. Chelsea Whitman, GOP Research. And Dave Sullivan in DFL Research. And I really wouldn't, this bill wouldn't be in the shape that it's in without Travis Reed, my CA, and Michael Molnar, my LA/CA, for a few weeks while Travis was out with 2 new children. So I want to make sure they get thanked and they hear that they were an integral part of this particular bill, all of them. Members, I'll quickly go through this because a 5-hour bill turned into a 10-hour bill. Not too sure as to why, but I think it was the author's refusal to just say no. I'm not afraid to say no. Members, this bill works to fund our departments at a level so they can fulfill the duties we ask them to do for our great state. It allows them to keep our work sites safe by funding OSHA all the way to making sure our workforce is well trained by putting $75 million into workforce training, more than we've ever done in the past. This is training those people that are taking that training for a path to success. It is time for those folks to get a shot at that brass ring on the merry-go-round. We are funding programs that are making commitments to train people for the high-tech jobs of tomorrow, something we haven't done before or haven't done very much. We are spending more money than ever to help people coming out of prison, to reacclimate to society, to get a good job. Yes, because we are good people at heart, but we have hundreds of thousands of vacant jobs in this state that need to be taken. And those men and those women should be able to take those jobs if possible. We are helping people get a handle on payday loans and student loans. This bill addresses how we help people care for their loved ones. This bill has the paid family medical leave in it. This makes sure people can earn time to take off work to care for themselves or their sick loved ones by earning sick and safe time. This bill deals with a huge amount of theft going on in this state. The wage theft bill is in this bill. We also are able to have, and that's actually, members, if I could get your attention, I think you should hear this. This is in the jobs bill. This is in the jobs bill. Because I was able to find money when Representative Poppy came to me and told me that we were going to lose 600, we could possibly lose 600 dairy farmers. This is for the members of Greater Minnesota. So understand, because I don't have any farms in my district. We went out of our way to find $10 million to help farmers with herds less than 750 cows and try to keep them in business. There's not much in that over in the Senate. And that's from a guy that lives out in that neck of the woods. So this bill, if for no other reason than to vote for it, the dairy program helps keeps our traditions of this state alive. With that, I'd like to ask if Representative Eklund would yield to explain his broadband part of the bill.
The member from Kuchiching, Representative Eklund.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about the broadband provisions of this bill. The bill provides $35 million in FY20 and $35 million in FY21 for a total of $70 million for the biennium for the border-to-border broadband grant program. This reflects the funding recommendations by the Governor's Broadband Task Force from last fall. In 2014, the state of Minnesota set a goal of border-to-border broadband access by 2022, signaling that access to quality broadband service should be a right for all Minnesotans. This bill puts us on track to achieve the 2022 goal of reaching every home and business with broadband service that can deliver speeds of at least 25 megabits by 3 megabits, which is the FCC's minimum. It also paves the way towards the 2026 goal of 100 by 25 to meet the growing technology needs across the state. This is not a partisan issue. It is a Minnesota issue, and it is the top priority for the close to 100 organizations making up Minnesota Rural Broadband Coalition, as you can see from the handout that'll be coming around in a moment. There is also a member from the chamber expressing Minnesota Chamber expressing their support in this bill. We know there are projects ready to go. In 2017 alone, the Office of Broadband Development received 70 applications, totaling over $50 million in requests for broadband infrastructure throughout the state. I appreciate the support of leadership and many members of the legislature, both Democrat and Republican, for broadband. With these grant dollars, we're on the path towards economic vitality across the whole state. Thank you, Madam Speaker, members.
Representative Mahoney.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'd like to call on Representative Lesh, who has our sick and safe time bill, to briefly explain it.
Representative Lesh will yield. Representative Lesh.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, Articles 6 and 7 of this bill are Earned Sick and Safe Time bill. This is House File 11. I've been carrying this bill in various forms for years simply because everybody gets sick, and we want Minnesota to be a caring state where our families are healthy and safe. So for too many Minnesotans, this is not the case. An estimated 36% of working people, or 932,000 Minnesotans, currently do not have access to paid sick and safe time. That means in a state with the second most Fortune 500 companies per capita, mothers and fathers must often face the terrible choice between caring for themselves or caring for a loved one in need, and the loss of wages or even of employment, because in many circumstances it is still legal for workers to be fired for needing to take time off to care for themselves or a loved one. So this common sense proposal also benefits employers through improved recruitment and retention, lower employer health care costs through better use of preventive care, and lower presenteeism, or the presenteeism, you wonder what's that? Okay, it's the cost of your coworkers showing up and coughing on you and getting sick, which many of you were out there doing in January and February this year. Okay, so most of you are not coughing anymore. But that's presenteeism, and it means higher productivity and fewer workplace injuries when we control for that with this bill. This is also a public health issue as noted by the Minnesota Department of Health in a 2015 paper, since many of the employees least likely to have paid sick and safe time work in jobs such as food service, So the people on the other side of the sneeze guard at Subway when you're walking through the line, and food service, and also caring for your kids. So that's where, we spread the diseases there, child care and food service workers. So that's the amendment. That's it, right? Okay, that was brief. We're good.
Representative Mahoney.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Representative Lesh. I'd like to call on the author of the paid family leave, Representative Halverson, if she would yield for a question.
She will yield.
Could you explain to the body your bill this year? The one that I've heard 6 or 7 times at this particular point?
Representative Halverson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and Representative Mahoney. I'd be happy to provide a short introduction to paid family medical leave. As you said, it has been thoroughly vetted as a standalone bill in 10 committees now, and so many people have heard this. But the proposal is important, and it's important to the people of Minnesota that we don't make Minnesotans choose between taking care of their own health in the event of an illness or an injury, or taking care of a loved one who may need their help, or bonding with a new baby. We all know how important that time is. Minnesota is in the position to become a leader in this country and change the status in the United States. The United States is one of only 2 countries in the world that does not provide some type of paid family and medical leave. And Minnesota employers have stepped up in a lot of ways. About 14% of Minnesotans are currently covered by some type of paid family and medical leave policy. But that sure leaves a lot of Minnesotans out. And so this proposal creates a program that's modeled on unemployment insurance that would provide all employers the ability to provide paid family and medical leave to their employees for a very low premium. It spreads the risk around so that small employers can offer the same kind of benefits that large employers have been able to offer, because those small employers don't have the economy of scale. At the same time, we know that small employers, very often, the smaller your business is, the more your employer is like your employees are like your family. And you're going to do whatever you can to take care of them. And a lot of small employers are putting themselves at risk. At the same time, a lot of employees who are faced with this untenable decision will leave the workforce or not enter the workforce. And at a time when Minnesota is facing unprecedented workforce shortages, it's time for this state to step up and put policies in place that will make a difference in ensuring that employers can retain and recruit the best and the brightest employees. So I look forward to having more discussion about this great proposal. Thank you, Representative Mahoney, for the time.
Representative Mahoney.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'll give you a brief description of the wage theft bill. We are going to finally have a bill that has teeth to it if an employer purposefully steals money from their employees. We're going to have a program that allows employers that make mistakes to get essentially a parking ticket, fix the problem, and the parking ticket goes away. We're going to do this by setting a minimum criteria. We're giving the Department of Labor and Industry the authorization to investigate. We're going to require owners to submit records when asked. We're going to give the department subpoena power when they won't submit the records. We're going to give them the ability to go to court and get the ability to go into a business to copy, interview, or take possession of the records. We're going to put a misdemeanor in there for someone when they do very small amounts of wage theft. But we put in if you steal $35,000 from somebody, you get to go to jail, just like if you stole $3,000 from a bank. We put enforcement remedies in there. We finally, I'll skip that one and just go to straight retaliation, because so many people are afraid to bring it up to their boss because they feel they'll get fired. Well, you can't. Or you will be found guilty of a, well, they don't have it here whether it's a misdemeanor or gross misdemeanor. And we finally put in the law with this bill the definition of what wage theft is, which is a criminal violation. So members, the department thinks that they can do, and I will give credit to Representative Garofalo. A couple years ago, he put more money in to hire more investigators, and they doubled, almost tripled the number of citations they were, well, what they would call a citation underneath this bill. This bill is a good bill. This wage theft, I am one of the proudest bills I've ever carried. But with that, I would ask if Representative Wagenius would yield.
She will yield. Representative Mahoney.
Madam Speaker, Representative Wagenius, would you please explain your energy bill to the committee, the chamber?
Representative Wagenius.
Thank you, Representative Mahoney. The part of this bill brought to you by the Energy and Climate Committee commits Minnesota to a clean energy future. A clean energy future that is based on innovation and accelerates the rapidly expanding number of high-paying jobs in the clean energy jobs. We're building on Minnesota's renewable energy success story. Our success was grounded in science. And that grounding in science continues in this bill. In our first two Energy and Climate Committee hearings, University of Minnesota experts told us about the impact of climate change on Minnesota. Dr. Mark Seeley started our first hearing by saying that Minnesota is experiencing the most profound changes in the country due to climate change. He said that the pace of change is unprecedented and well documented by science. He also said that could not be overstated. Here's some of the other things that the experts told us. Minnesota is one of the fastest warming states. The warming is in the winter, and there is more warming in the north than in the south. Our winters are currently warming 13 times faster than our summers. But climate models project summers will begin to warm soon. Warmer summers mean lower corn yields. Rains will come more frequently and be more intense in the spring, and later in this century, the amount of heavy rainfall will have doubled. But the summers will be drier. More droughts will be apparent by 2030. More heavy rainfall events will mean greater runoff and lower soil moisture, so less water for plants. Winter warming allows pests like corn rootworm and soybean aphid to survive over winter. Minneapolis and Mankato are two of the three fastest warming cities in the nation. Faribault will have 54 days above 95 degrees and 43 fewer days below freezing. So we could be the next Kansas. Climate change will bring more stress. 15 to 50% of people exposed to extreme weather disaster are at risk of adverse mental health effects, and up to 54% of adults and 45% of children suffer depression after a natural disaster. A shift to temperature above 66 degrees Fahrenheit could mean that our beloved northern boreal forests will disappear, along with a third of our native species. Our loons and balsam fir will disappear for good. in Minnesota. Minnesota youth see the reality of the changing climate and know that it threatens their future. They've come all over to the state to tell us that they're scared, even terrified. They want us to leave them the same kind of promising future that our parents and grandparents gave to us. And that is a tall order, and they know it. They're well aware of the 2018 report of the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that says that the world only has the next dozen years to sharply curtail carbon dioxide emissions to head off the most catastrophic impacts of climate change. Minnesota youth know adults and our institutions need to make major changes within the next 12 years. The bill before you is a down payment on our efforts to give the young Minnesotans the kind of future they want and we want for them. I hear folks ask, is it really worth it to take the effort to deal with climate change? After all, we're just a small portion of the problem, not a big part at all. I'm really glad that that question comes from a small minority. Minnesotans are a can-do people. Minnesotans know that leadership matters. When Minnesotans set a renewable energy standard in 2007 with strong bipartisan support, our efforts led the nation. Other states followed. Our leadership mattered. When Governor Walz announced his 100% carbon-free standard, the announcement was reported in newspapers from the West by the San Francisco Chronicle, from the Southeast by the Miami Herald, by the Associated Press, and by Bloomberg, and more. Our leadership matters. The bill before you includes Governor Walz's 100% carbon-free standard by 2050, but it doesn't just set a goal. This bill also includes the first round of very concrete, doable efforts that will put us on the path to a carbon-free future. These are Minnesota can-do changes, changes that Minnesotans would expect of us. Solar on schools and in state parks, expanded community solar garden opportunities, accelerated renewable energy projects for our higher ed campuses, electric buses, public vehicle charging stations in places where one would expect them to be, access to solar for homes and businesses alike, a plan to use restored prairie for carbon sequestration. What has been most impressive about our hearings is the Minnesotans who have come forward with I want to help solutions. Like the architects who know they can design more energy efficient buildings, so you will find the stretch building code in this bill. Like the builders who want a PACE program that works for them. Those provisions are in this bill. And with Governor Walz's energy efficiency proposals that are in this bill, there will be multiple opportunities for electric and gas energy consumers to save money by using electricity and gas more efficiently. Our electric utilities, co-ops, and munis will also provide cost-effective opportunities for customers to move from fossil fuels to electric energy. A strategy that both saves money and reduces greenhouse gas emissions. All of our electricity providers have a huge role to play in making sure that young Minnesotans will have the same kind of future that Minnesotans want for them. This bill provides a roadmap for the changes that Minnesotans of all generations are telling us they want. Changes that ensure that the future we want for all Minnesotans, including the youngest.
Representative Mahoney.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am ready to take any amendments that we're ready for.
Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise to make a motion to re-refer this bill to government operations. If you look in your rules, right here, Rule Point 4.13, which governs mandatory referrals to Government Operations Committee. And it says, the Committee on Government Operations and Elections Policy has jurisdiction over a House or Senate bill that establishes or reestablishes a department, agency, commission, board, task force, advisory committee, or council, or bureau, or other like entity, a bill that is within the jurisdiction of the Committee on Government Operations and Election Policy must be referred to that committee before it receives its second reading. A committee or division other than the Committee on Government Operations and Elections Committee reporting such a bill must recommend its re-referral to the Committee on Government Operations and Election Policy if reporting before the deadline for action on the bill by that committee. If reporting after the deadline, the Committee on Division must recommend re-referral to the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration. Per the House rules, members, this bill needs to be sent to Rules to be re-referred to Government Operations. On page 106, and I would urge you to look at the bill in front of you, it establishes a new commission or a new advisory board for the Minnesota Innovation Collaborative. That is governed by Minnesota Statute Section 15.059. This language was never heard in government operations, not as a standalone, not as an amendment to another bill, not as a clone bill, and not even on an informational basis. Members, with that, I would ask for, Madam Speaker, I would ask for roll call.
Representative Albright requests a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Discussion to the motion. Representative Mahoney.
Madam Speaker, this bill at this particular time, I would advise against that. This is a board of 10 members that are non-governmental people to advise the advisory board shall select the chair from its private sector to advise the commissioner of deed on recommendations for his expenditure of money to innovation and small businesses trying to start up, but most likely high-tech businesses. So, Madam Chair, I would ask that you not support this motion.
Further discussion. Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and Representative Mahoney, to your comments. I don't know that the rules are any more articulate than they could be. It doesn't matter if there's 2 members on the board or there are 10, but the Commissioner of Deed is authorized on page 101 to establish this board, and it actually also governs the rules of the road, if you will, for that board. This was never heard in a committee in any form whatsoever. We hear a lot about custom and usage. We hear a lot about process. We've railed against it. You have embraced it. You have shown us what is important, what is not important. I don't know if Representative Freiberg is on the floor. I can't see around the corner. He is on. Would he yield for a question?
He's not on the floor. Representative Albright. Well, he is on the floor. Just wasn't by his desk. I'm going to guess the expression on his face meant that he would yield. He will yield. Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Freiberg, with regard to the conversation about the Minnesota Innovation Collaborative and the board that's established on page 106 in Representative Mahoney's jobs bill, why did you find it not necessary to hold a committee hearing relevant to the establishment of that advisory board.
Representative Freiberg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm not aware that there was a bill introduced.
Representative Albright.
Well, there was, and I don't have the House file in front of me, but it certainly was established, and it was never heard. Members, you're not following your process. I guess that's no surprise. Please vote green.
Seeing no, Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. As the former chair of the Government Operations and Election Committee in this chamber, I want to let you know that one of the things that the minority party did at the time that I was the chair was be a very big stickler on making sure that those bills that had references to committees, task forces, renewal, extension of all those different kinds of things were heard, whether they were a bill that spent 60 seconds, 60 minutes, or somewhere in between in committee, to make sure that we did that, and they held us accountable. And I was very happy to honor those requests, and I'm assuming that the rules still mean something in this place. And so I'm assuming that we'll see a nice board full of folks voting for this, for the re-referral back to the Government Operations Committee, so that we can do the work that we publish of how we're going to do business in this organization. Thank you, Madam Speaker and members.
Discussion to the motion. Seeing no further discussion to the motion, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. Freiberg votes no. There being 58 ayes and 69 nays, the motion does not prevail. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Mahoney moves to amend House File Number 2208, the second engrossment, and the amendment is coded A94.
Representative Mahoney.
Madam Speaker, the A94 amendment relates to the unclaimed property. This takes out a lot of the language that the banks were upset about and concerned about. There's still work to be done on it, but as we move forward, this is an amendment that gets us halfway there.
Discussion to the amendment. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There is an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Mahoney moves to amend House File Number 2208, the second engrossment as amended. The amendment is coded A74.
Representative Mahoney. You have an amendment to your amendment, but I'll let you explain your amendment first.
Madam Speaker, this is an amendment that placing a private plan to qualify. This is a technical amendment, Madam Speaker. I'm sorry. I had to take a look at that. This gives an opt-out for employees with a little bit more flexibility in providing paid family medical leave. It can be less than 12 weeks. And 2, deletes sections relating to manufactured housing. And Section 3 cancels an appropriation for the Department of Revenue for paid family leave that is no longer necessary.
There's an amendment to the amendment. The clerk will report the amendment.
Haley moves to amend the Mahoney amendment to House File 2208, the second engrossment as amended, and the amendment to the amendment is coded A116.
Representative Haley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My amendment requires the Commissioner to approve a private plan for paid family medical leave if the employer provides any paid leave to all of their employees that could be used for paid family leave purposes. For example, I queried a number of employers in my district, and one of the largest employers that has employees not only in my district but all over the U.S. internationally. They offer leave to care for someone's own health issues, leave to care for a family member who may have health issues, and they also offer parental leave. So my amendment would allow that to qualify. Many employers are already offering paid leave and have flexibility for the types of benefits that their employees want and need. This amendment ensures that we are allowing businesses to keep that flexibility in order to best address the individual needs of their employees. No business in our state or employee mix is exactly alike. And I disagree that we should impose burdensome regulations and mandates without regard to size of business, industry, or already provided benefits that they may already be offering. In these employers that I spoke with, some of their comments were, there'll be unintended consequences of this legislation. We may end up having to cut other benefits that we value, or eliminate wage increases, or even have layoffs. We'd prefer to have the flexibility to offer the benefits that our employees deem most wanted and most needed. Perhaps our overall employee population would rather us put money and attribute these costs to health insurance, for example, or maybe to increased 401k match. Those are just examples. So what I'm doing in this amendment is allowing our employers this flexibility, and it will still ensure that people have access to paid leave that they could use for serious health conditions, or for bonding, or for safety leave, or for caring for a family member. But we do this in a way that allows businesses and employees to decide what works best for them and for their individual circumstances. Thank you, members, and I ask for your support.
Discussion. Representative Halverson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I rise in opposition to this amendment because the amendment is not necessary. The flexibility for employers to offer a private plan that suits their needs is provided for in the underlying bill. In addition, the amendment that Representative Mahoney is offering, the technical amendment, further clarifies the flexibility that we are looking to offer employees so that they can offer a private plan that works for them and their employees. Maximum flexibility has always been a goal of this legislation, and we have worked to make that happen. So this amendment is not necessary. Please vote no.
Any further discussion to the amendment? Representative Haley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I guess I disagree with the presentation on how this would work. This very large employer that I've talked to actually spent 2 full days with their legal counsel looking at all 30 pages of this one provision in the bill. And they have provided me with a full spreadsheet on their current benefits and how they think this would impact them and how it would be implemented. Some of their concern is that in order to even apply for this waiver or to be allowed, there's a waiting period. And they would be penalized by not offering the state plan, for example, before they could actually prove that they have a benefit plan already in place. In addition, even with their own private benefit plan in place, they would have to pay a fee to the state. So all of these things are not giving them the flexibility they want and are increasing their costs and are going to have those unintended consequences. Thank you, and I ask for your support to really ensure, by voting for this amendment, to ensure that we provide flexibility to all of our employers and employees. Thank you, members.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the amendment to the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. No. The motion does not prevail. The amendment to the amendment is not adopted. On the underlying Mahoney amendment, the A74, further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Kosnick moves to amend House File Number 2208, the second engrossment as amended, and the amendment is coded A80.
The member from Dakota, Representative Kosnick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this amendment is part of a bill that was heard in committee. And within this bill, it sets up pools of funding which list possible recipients for funding. And the commissioner is given discretion to determine which participants or programs in that list will be funded and at what amount. Representative Jay Young had a good bill to provide funding for the AmeriCorps Promise Fellows that was ultimately not included in the bill. And the A80 amendment adds funding for the AmeriCorps Promise Fellows as an option for the commissioner to choose to fund under the opportunity funding pool. And I'm supporting this bill. Earlier we talked a lot about education, and one of the things that they do is provide teacher training. 70% of the Promise Fellows that would be funded or have been funded, their host sites have hired their members after their service, and I would look to stand for any questions or look for your support.
Discussion to the amendment. Representative Mahoney.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And this was a first-time request. Most of their money has come from federal monies. But Representative Kosnick, you are just asking for them to go into the competitive pools, correct?
He will yield. Representative Kosnick.
Chair Mahoney, Madam Speaker, that is correct.
Representative Mahoney.
Madam Chair, I'll accept the amendment.
All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There is an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Tice moves to amend House File Number 2208, the second engrossment as amended, and the amendment is coded A81.
The member from Stearns, Representative Tice.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment does basically the same thing as what you just heard from Representative Kosnick. It adds a grant or the grant possibility to be added to the opportunity funding pool for advocating Change Together to the list of recipients that the commissioner can consider funding for. The grant to Advocating Change Together would be used to address barriers to employment for people with disabilities and provide skills and training. Advocating Change Together is a grassroots disability rights organization run by and for people with developmental and other disabilities. With that, I hope that we can get your support.
Representative Mahoney.
Madam Speaker, Representative Tice, this bill has significant dollars in it to help people such as that, but I'm certainly willing to accept it and allow it into the competitive pool.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Tice moves to amend House File Number 2208, the second engrossment as amended. The amendment is coded A82.
Representative Tice.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chair Mahoney, Madam Speaker. I've got this voice in my ear, and I just love it. I'm also asking that we would consider putting the Heartland Girls Ranch into the opportunity pool as well. And this one is very, very important to my community and to everybody's community, because what it does is it helps girls who are trying to, again, girls trying to get out of the business. And the entry level, the average age for entry level of girls into this program is 12 to 13 years old. So Heartland Girls Ranch provides long-term care for girls struggling with mental, emotional, and behavioral problems, as well as girls who have experienced trauma, including commercial, sexual exploitation, and trafficking. Referrals come from county social workers, probation officers, tribal workers, and include delinquency, CHIPS, and voluntary placements. Each referral is considered on an individual basis for their situation and the current population of residents being served. Heartland's Girls Ranch does accept residents who are known or suspected to be pregnant. HGR is unable to accept residents who are actively psychotic, actively suicidal, who are a significant danger to themselves and others. And that tells you right there what a serious problem it is. I cannot say enough how much every community appreciates the work that Heartland Girls Ranch does, and I hope that I can get your vote for this one as well.
Representative Mahoney.
Madam Chair, Representative Tice, this is just getting in, being allowed into the competitive grants. I'll accept it.
The member from Candy, Ojai, Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Representative Mahoney. And Representative Tice, I want to personally thank you for stepping forward with this. This was kind of in the mix of things. I wouldn't call it an oversight, but there's a lot of things that are going on, and you recognize that you took opportunity to fix this. Heartland Girls Ranch members is in Benson, which is in my district. I toured it probably the first year that I was in office, and from that time since then, I've worked with them directly. My wife volunteers there. This is an incredible place that changes real lives of these young women, these girls. It's pretty incredible work that they do. For those that are in other parts of the state, this is very similar to the link here in Minneapolis, Lighthouse up in Duluth, and I'm sure there's many other places. We've done a really good job, members, in our state of fighting against trafficking of children for sex. Think of that. We have that big problem here in Minnesota, but this is one of those situations where a lot of good is happening. I encourage you, if you ever get out by my area, I will bring you out and show you this place. They call it Heartland Girls Ranch because they actually connect the girls with horses, and they first learn how to care for them, then how to train them, and then eventually compete them. It's a pretty incredible thing, and so thank you for this, and I do ask for your support.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Swazinski moves to amend House File Number 2208, the second engrossment, as amended, and the amendment is coded A83.
The member from Lyon, Representative Swazinski.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And this is kind of draws along the same line of the other amendments that have been graciously accepted by Chair Mahoney. It just opens up these potential grants and the offerings to them for our robotics teams. I think if you visit your high schools, those opportunities that lays before them, it really gets a lot of hands-on for these kids in science and manufacturing, running CNC machines, and really designing and using creativity with engineering. And I think the opportunities that the robotics teams offer across the state, I think are a good one, and I would ask that the chair would support this as well, that these teams would have some of the access to these potential grants. And
Representative Mahoney.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I'll accept this amendment.
All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There is an amendment at the desk.
Gunther moves to amend House File Number 2208, the second engrossment, as amended. The amendment is coded A56.
Representative Gunther.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment deals with need to do biannual reporting on grant programs. This year in the jobs bill, we had many new programs introduced, and I want to make sure these programs are all off on a good foot. We want to see a lot of them pass and a lot of them meet muster and do what they're supposed to and intended to do. In order to that, we have to have transparency, so this bill creates that transparency.
There's an amendment to the amendment. The clerk will report the amendment.
Mahoney moves to amend the Gunther amendment to House File Number 2208, the second engrossment, as amended. The amendment to the amendment is coded A117.
Representative Mahoney.
Madam Speaker, Representative Gunther, all the A117 amendment does is add geographic location of the clients. I hope you'll accept it.
Representative Gunther.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Representative Mahoney, I think it's a great amendment to my amendment, and I wholeheartedly support it.
All those in favor of the amendment to the amendment, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails to the underlying Gunther amendment. Representative Mahoney. to the underlying Gunther amendment.
Madam Speaker, Representative Gunther, I think we're a little ahead of the horse, so to speak. The horse is a little ahead of the cart, but I think it's a good amendment to put in there and send that message to DEED if they can do it. My worry is that they can't get all this information, but they're going to try. But I'll accept this amendment.
All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There is an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Backer moves to amend House File Number 2208, the second engrossment as amended. The amendment is coded A58.
Representative Backer.
Madam Speaker and members, one of the things that we heard in the Jobs Committee was quite a few different programs that that got started with new money, new programs, and it's very important that we see transparency. I will be withdrawing the amendment because the one before that also addresses that. So it's just so important for us not just to take taxpayers' dollars and just give it away, but also has the transparency. So I will withdraw it because the last amendment supported that.
Representative Backer withdraws his amendment. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Haley moves to amend House File Number 2208, the second engrossment as amended. The amendment is coded A53.
Representative Haley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For the 5 funding pools that are established in the bill, my amendment would require the commissioner to award at least 50% of the grant funding to programs or services outside of Hennepin and Ramsey counties. The bill does some very good things for Greater Minnesota, and I appreciate all the work that the chair did and the committee did. But with this new model of funding pools, there's nothing in there that directs the commissioner to really be equitable in how all these dollars are granted. So we just want to make sure that the commissioner remembers the areas that are outside of the metro when appropriating funding between all the various grant pool programs. I ask for your support. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Mahoney.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Haley, this amendment really hampers the department in doing its job and being able to move money to where it needs to go. Because some get more than 50%, some get less than 50%, and that's just not under me. You can go back in history, and those programs, back from Chair McElroy, Chair Gunther, Chair Garofalo, and my bill this year, create over 60% of the dollars go to Greater Minnesota. And if that doesn't impress you, how about Greater Minnesota gets $170 million in funding for $70 million in the metro area? That's just the 7-county metro area, not the 11-county. So members, I understand the need for help in Greater Minnesota. The cost of a job, to create a job as we like to call it, in Greater Minnesota takes a larger subsidy from DEED by several $1,000s. And we do not hesitate to do that. We don't hesitate to do that. And we have to sometimes, the department sometimes has to move money around in order to fulfill that need. So members, this is something we have always done. We've given 60% to Greater Minnesota. The least that I've seen in the last several years is 62%. So I would ask for a no vote on this particular amendment.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. No. The motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Haley moves to amend House File Number 2208, the second engrossment as amended, and the amendment is coded A52.
Representative Haley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I appreciate your comments, Chair Mahoney. And I guess I'm offering this amendment as another way to look at this. This is a new model, again, to create these funding pools, and it is a new administration and a new commissioner. If, as you said, that in the past their money has been 60% or more to Greater Minnesota, then there shouldn't be a problem adding to the bill a 50% requirement, just so that we are sending the message to the commissioner that this is an expectation. And so this amendment asks for 50% of the grant funding in the programs or services outside of the 11 county metro area. Again, we just want to make sure that the commissioner remembers how important it is to distribute the funds equitably and to realize the impact that this could have to create jobs in Greater Minnesota. Thank you, and I ask for your support, members. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Mahoney.
Madam Speaker, Representative Haley, for much the same reasons as I gave the last time, I would ask for a no vote on this particular bill.
Discussion to the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Those opposed to the amendment, please say no. The motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Doubt moves to amend House File Number 2208, the second engrossment as amended, and the amendment is coded A55.
Member for Mysante, Representative Doubt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Offering the A55 amendment, which I think is an important thing that we should do really for all programs that we're funding, new programs that we're funding. Basically, my language is really simple. It would require that DEED must report to the legislature on their decision process for awarding pool grants, including criteria used, grant amounts, and any available grant outcomes. And I think that's the least that we should request from anybody that we're funding through these sorts of programs. There was an interesting article, I don't know if you caught it, in MinPost yesterday. Title of the article, "A year ago, one nonprofit was engaged in a bitter fight with the Dayton administration. Today it's in line to get millions in state grants." And I think this is the exact kind of thing that we want to prevent. I'm not going to go into great detail about this article. You can pull it up. It was literally yesterday posted on MinPost. But it talks about a program, the Emerge program, that frankly had a lot of problems, a lot of past questions. They actually even entered into a settlement, I think, on the last day of Governor Dayton's term, reached a settlement with the administration for their past actions, and now, here they are in line to get millions of dollars of funding. With really no checks and balances, no report back to the legislature, no kind of answering for these past problems. I also was at an NCSL conference recently within the last year or so. And as you walk around the convention floor, there are folks kind of displaying different things that they've done in other states. And I think it's the Pew Charitable Trusts has a program that many states are implementing. And if I remember right, I didn't look this up before I spoke, so forgive me if I'm not exactly right on this, but I think it's called performance-based budgeting, where they basically talk about putting into statute, when you start a new program, putting in these sorts of measures that outline the goals and require them to report back on whether they're meeting the goals. And it basically allows us as a legislature then to fund successful programs that work, that give a return on investment, and discontinue funding for programs that don't work. And I think the problem with that, frankly, is if we don't do that, what we're funding is just more bureaucracy with no return on investment, with no guarantee that it's helping the real people that we're trying to help. So I think this is something that's really obvious. Thank you. Frankly, and this shouldn't be, and I don't think it is a partisan thing. I think this is something that frankly, we should all want, because if we're funding a program, whether you want to fund a program or not, I think we all want to make sure that the programs that we're funding are successful. I did have a conversation with the chair, and I think, at least I'm hoping, I think he intends I think he might agree with this amendment, and maybe with some support from the other side, it'll go on the bill. I also do have an amendment to the amendment, Madam Speaker.
There's an amendment to the amendment. The clerk will report the amendment.
Now it moves to amend his amendment to House File Number 2208, the second engrossment as amended. The amendment to the amendment is coded A96.
Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 896 amendment basically just fixes. I intended to have the bill drafted this way, or the amendment drafted this way originally, but it just removes the words "any available," and then would read that they have to report to us grant amounts and grant outcomes. So they need to report the outcomes to us, and they can't use that. It was drafted as any available, meaning they could just say, well, we don't have that information, so we're not going to report it back to you. I think, anything that we're funding millions of dollars into, I think they owe it to us to show us what they invested that money in, and did it work? I think we want to know that, because I think we want to make sure that that these programs are working. So that would just correct that, that language. So with that, I'd ask for your support on the amendment to the amendment.
Discussion on the amendment to the amendment. Representative Mahoney.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support the amendment to the amendment.
Any further discussion on the amendment to the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment to the amendment is adopted. Discussion to the underlying amendment. Representative Mahoney.
Members, again, as with Representative Gunthers, this is not a cheap endeavor. And we'll certainly look to see if we can find money in the conference committee. I think it's still, again, a little early, because the committee next year will be spending most of its year looking for the accountability that has been spoken to on this particular floor, so that we can compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges, whether they're large organizations or small organizations. So I support the amendment at this particular time, and I hope I can bring it back from conference.
Any further discussion?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I would just encourage members, and appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. I think this is the right move, but not just here. We should strive for this in every one of these programs that we're funding, everywhere in our budget, because I think we all can agree when we're funding something, we want to make sure it's successful. These programs are designed to help people, and we want to make sure that they're actually helping the people that we want them to help. So not just here, I think we should do this everywhere, but thank you, Madam Speaker.
All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Franson moves to amend House File Number 2208, the second engrossment as amended. The amendment is coded A50.
Representative Franson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. The A50. So the jobs bill currently gives a $2.865 million to the Commissioner of Deed for projects that support economic development by increasing the availability of childcare. The Commissioner is told to use his discretion to choose how much to fund the following: Women Venture, the Minnesota Initiatives Foundation, and eligible applicants under the Child Care Economic Development Grant Program. The A50 amendment just says that money given to the Commissioner must be used for both family and center-based child care providers. That way, it would ensure that the Commissioner couldn't only give funding to centers. Thank you, members.
There's an amendment to the amendment. The clerk will report the amendment.
Mahoney moves to amend the Franson amendment to House File Number 2208, the second engrossment as amended. The amendment to the amendment is coded A112.
Representative Mahoney.
Madam Speaker, members, my amendment changes the word fund to support such funding, because the Initiative Foundation doesn't do any child care. All they do is support child care and help try to create more child care centers in greater Minnesota. So all I'm trying to do is make sure they can support it, because they do not fund initiative foundations.
Further discussion on the amendment to the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment to the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. The amendment to the amendment, the motion prevails. The amendment to the amendment is adopted. Discussion on the underlying amendment as amended. Representative Mahoney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support this amendment.
I think he said I support it, but I couldn't hear him. Representative Mahoney, would you repeat that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just trying to be quick, because we've been on the floor for 10 hours and I'm a little tired of hearing my voice. I do support this particular amendment as adopted, as amended.
Any further discussion to the A50 amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the A50 amendment, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Johnson moves to amend House File Number 2208, the second engrossment as amended. The amendment is coded A37.
Representative Johnson.
Members, this amendment deals with banking. As many of you know, if you've gone to your bank lately, they've gone to a paperless system. No deposit slips, no accountability if there's a mistake, no way to verify what you asked them to do. It was about a month ago is when the banks in my area switched over. And in that time, I've done about 14 transactions, some night deposit, some going up to the counter and telling them what I would like them to do. Of those 14 deposits, 4 of them were wrong. One of them put it into my account, but it was the wrong account. I wanted it into my savings account. They put it into my checking. Went home, went online, my wife went online. The money wasn't there. She's trying to figure out where the money went. We finally figured it out and had to go back and fix it. Did another deposit, and I watched them do that. Do the deposit. They hand me the deposit ticket, take 2 steps away, have to turn around. Guess what? They did it again. Now, it was even worse. I had about a week later at a different banking facility, we did night deposits. Put it in the night deposit, 2 different times. One on Saturday, because they were closed by the time I got there, so I threw it in the night deposit. On Sunday, threw another one in. On Tuesday, I went in there because they hadn't showed up on our accounts. They dug around. They finally found the deposit envelope. One of them, they found the check still in the envelope. It was in the pile to be shredded, $300. They found the other deposit envelope. Money was gone. They're looking for the slip. They had to go to another pile. They found the deposit slip in the stack to be shredded as well. They just hadn't got to shredding the stack. It took them over an hour to find that deposit in somebody else's account. And that wasn't the bad part, but that person already spent the $700. So the bank's scrambling to get the $700 out of the account, the wrong account they put it in, but there's no money to take it from, and get it into my account because I needed to write a check. The paperless system is wonderful, except there's no accountability, no way to verify. Now, after I dropped this amendment a week ago Friday, been contacted numerous times by the stakeholders on this, and we've worked out an issue. We've been working on it. Explained the situation where almost 35% of my deposits were done incorrectly ever since they went to paperless system. They were very good to work with. We did a lot of things. And the reason I brought this forward is because we have a lot of senior citizens that do their banking. They don't do online banking. They don't do, they're not used to this, going online and checking, make sure their accounts are correct. They want something in paper to look at. They want to make sure. Now, if you're in business, you have to have those slips. My wife's an accountant, a CPA with her MBT, and she has to have documentation. If I don't bring deposit slips home, I'm in trouble. And she wasn't real happy about this when they went to the paperless system. But this past week, during our break, with a lot of work, we think we've come up to a resolution. And got a little more work to do on it, but we're going to try to get it set up so the banks, when you do a deposit, if you choose to have this done, is the minute that deposit is done, the bank will automatically email you the deposit record to make sure you have it. And when you do night deposit, as soon as they do that deposit, it'll be emailed to your account or emailed to you so you know that it was taken care of. And I want to thank the industry for working with me on this issue because it's important. We have a lot of identity theft where people are stealing the funds right out of your bank. And it happens a lot. The biggest victims we have is seniors. And we ought to make sure that we protect the assets of our senior citizens and of all of Minnesota. So we want to make sure that we do this right, and if we do, since we are going to this paperless system, we have to make sure we have a way to verify that things were done properly. But with the work I've done with the stakeholders, I'm going to be withdrawing this amendment to this time, and I'll be watching, making sure that the promises they have made and their work that they want to do will get done. If it's not, I will be bringing this forward again next year. Thank you.
Discussion. He's withdrawing it. Thank God. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Lesh moves to amend House File number 2208, the second engrossment as amended. The amendment is coded A46.
Representative Lesh.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment would only address airline flight crews, which includes both pilots or flight attendants. Both of these workforces do not work traditional 40-hour work weeks in one location. On a 3 or 4 day work trip, flight crews travel through the multiple states and oftentimes multiple countries. It's challenging for them to track how long a pilot or flight attendant is working in one state and which states' earned sick and safe time law would govern consistent with the requirements in this bill. So the amendment exempts those flight crews from their earned sick and safe time requirements, but only if the flight crews receive equal to or more than the paid time off that is required by the legislation, and they do. This language is based on the statute that California passed for flight crews when it passed its safe and sick time legislation back in 2016. The state of Michigan passed similar language. So it only exempts these flight crews. Airline employees that work more traditional 40-hour work weeks each day in Minnesota would not be exempt. This includes work groups such as airport customer service agents, reservation agents, or mechanics, which are work groups that generally work only in Minnesota. We were approached by an airline, Delta folks, who said, hey, hang on a second, we already do this under federal law, so let us keep doing it and don't make us try to track when they're over a state line. So we said, okay, we'll offer the amendment. That's this amendment. We ask for your support.
There's an amendment to the amendment. The clerk will report the amendment.
Haley moves to amend the Lesh amendment to House File number 2208, the second engrossment as amended. The amendment to the amendment is coded A113.
Representative Haley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Representative Lesh. I appreciate the concerns from one industry about flight crews and how this earned and safe time would not work for them. But I think there's a much larger segment of our employment base that is impacted by earned sick and sick time, and that is our employers of under 25 employees. Small businesses generate 2/3 of all net new jobs in the state of Minnesota. And there are many components of this bill that seek to encourage entrepreneurialism, new business startups, and we all recognize how important that is for our state's economy. We are seeking to be an innovation state and a state that wants new businesses to come here and thrive here. And yet, earned sick and safe time is something that can be very prohibitive for small employers. So I ask for your support here to exempt small employers of under 25 employees. We heard even when this provision was introduced how small employers treat their employees like family. And in talking about this provision, when I was home over Easter break, I talked to an auto repair shop. I talked to a fitness club owner. I talked to an optometrist. I talked to a tax preparer. I talked to many of the small employers in my district, and all of them said, we count on our employees every single day, every single week. And if there are family issues or health issues, we work with them however we can. We pitch in if somebody needs the time off to care for themselves or a loved one. But we can't do this under a mandate. And I agree with them, and I'm standing up today to advocate for them. Because they thrive when they can hire and retain good people, and again, treat them like family. So if we are going to exempt large companies that employ airlines from this, I think it makes sense to exempt our smallest employers. I ask for your support. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, members.
Representative Backer.
Madam Speaker, can I ask for a roll call?
Representative Haley requests a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Representative Backer.
Madam Speaker and members, I am one of those small businesses owners. Just example, one of our staff people, she will have a baby in November and needs to take time off to see the doctors. We work with her on that. Had another staff member today. She was involved with something last night, only got 3 hours of sleep, had to leave early. We are able to provide that flexibility. I have the controller of our business who also does a farm with her husband. And so we work out that she works 4 days a week, and then on Friday, she's doing the book work for the farm. We provide that flexibility, but the challenge with this, just like Delta needs that flexibility, we as small businesses, plus when you're on the western part of Minnesota on the hump, bump, tip, elbow, nose, what happens is we're competing against North Dakota and South Dakota folks. If you go down from Canada down to Iowa, no longer is there a larger community on the Minnesota side. I just talked to my, individuals this weekend on Easter, and they're again, moving to Fargo because they can save $8,000 a year just on taxes alone. $8,000 a year, a 24-year-old person that we just lost to North Dakota. And so what this bill does is it hurts us entrepreneurs who are taking the risk, who are already flexible with our staff member, because like Representative Haley says, it's hard to get good people. And if you're a small business owner, you're going to work with them already. So what the state government's telling me and other small businesses, you got to do it our way. Well, what works in St. Paul doesn't work in greater Minnesota. Support Representative Haley's amendment.
Representative Lesh.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I ask you to oppose Representative Haley's amendment to my amendment. According to data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the quarterly census of employment wages, her amendment would exclude approximately 1/3 of all workers in Minnesota from the protections that we are seeking to offer them in this bill. This is about 360,000 workers without any access to earned sick and safe time and continuing to face that terrible choice between caring for themselves or loved ones in need and the loss of wages or their employment. So to discriminate against individuals who are in desperate need of access to that sick and safe time based on the number of coworkers they have doesn't seem to make sense. We're not providing an exemption for Delta. They already do this under federal law. It's covered, and there are issues because of the fact that their airplanes and their air crews go over state lines, and having to track how much time they're in the air over Minnesota doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That's why we're doing this. It seemed to be a reasonable accommodation. If someone else came in and said, yes, we already do this and our workers are guaranteed that, that's a different deal. That's what Delta did. No one else is coming to us and saying that. What we're hearing from people today is, hey, trust us, the check's in the mail. If anyone comes to me and says they need time off, I'm going to take care of them. That's not what we're hearing from Minnesota employees. That's not what we're hearing from workers out there. We're hearing from workers who are getting fired because, God forbid, they had to take their time off to take care of their kid who's sick home from school with the flu, and they get fired. That's what we hear from people. Those are the protections that you're seeking to strip out from Minnesota workers simply based on the fact that, oops, they work with someone, they work in an office that has fewer than 25 employees. That's just not fair to 1/3 of Minnesota workers who we're seeking to protect here with this bill in Representative Mahoney's bill. So I ask you to oppose the amendment.
Representative Franson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I don't know if many of you know this, but I work for a small business, part-time, very part-time, but Herbie's in Carlos, Minnesota, population of 502. And when I'm working, I like to tell the people there that I am the best bartender they've got at Herbie's in Carlos, because at that current time from 9 to 5, I am the only bartender. So naturally, I am the best bartender they have. But I've worked there. I will be coming up on 4 years come August. 4 years there. Absolutely love it. I love being able to work and chat with my constituents. And on Friday I worked, and let me tell you, the number one conversation people were coming in was talking about the gas tax. So that is going to be fun when we discuss that with the transportation bill. But I digress. Anyway, I have known the owners, the previous owners, Herbie and Linda, the parents, and they just recently, as of last August, sold their business to their sons. So now their sons have the business, and you know, I want to make sure that Herbie's continues to stay in Carlos. On my side, when I work at the bar, there's the coffee drinkers in the morning, and they line up, and if I'm late, they let me know. They're watching that clock, Mary. It's 9:07. Don't they start paying you at 9 a.m.? Aren't you supposed to be here at 9 a.m.? And if I am on time, they let me know that too. Wow, you actually made it to work on time today, Mary. So I'm sure some of you aren't surprised. I'm late to caucus a lot too. So, but anyway, I know how hard these business owners work, and it's a struggle right now to keep quality staff. They just got a wonderful new cook in the morning, and I would hate to see another mandate on our small business. I would hate to see Herbie's in Carlos. Like I said, it's the only restaurant, one side's the cafe, in town. I would hate for my regular individuals that come in there every morning for coffee, whether it be on the diner side or on the bar side. And then you've got your afternoon coffee drinkers on the diner side. It would sadden me if Herbie's closed down because we put yet another mandate on our very small business. So members, in theory, I support this, but I really hope that you take to heart Representative Haley's amendment, because rural Minnesota, our businesses cannot afford any more mandates upon them. We need to keep rural Minnesota thriving. Thank you.
Representative Vogel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I deal with a lot of small businesses with our business. A lot of people employing 1, 2, 3, 5 people. And there is a difference between people or businesses that are employing 50, 100 or more people because they've got more coverage. When you're in a small business, a lot of times you don't have much in the way, you've got a lot of specialties, you don't have much in the way of coverage. So therefore, you're in trouble when somebody's gone. One of the things in this bill, and it was kind of ironic when we heard it in the Labor Committee, was, and I'm not against it, but was that it was mandated that you could take off time if your kids can't go to school because of snow day. Well, it just so happened that that previous weekend, I had been talking to a small business owner that had 4 employees that plowed snow. If he lost 2 2 or 3 of those drivers, because they were going to stay home and use this new benefit, he wouldn't be able to plow the snow. He'd blow his contract. They would have had off the day that they had relative to the bill, but they'd also have a lot more days off because he would have gotten fired. That's the problem you face when you're a small business person, is you don't have the coverage. So when we start mandating things like this for really small businesses, we risk that they may not be around. So I rise in support of this amendment, because if we throw too many restrictions on these people and they go under because they can't make it, because something like this happens, it takes away their job, their livelihood. These small businesses are more than willing to work with their employees, but they can't work with one-size-fits-all mandates when it applies to a 1,000, a 100, and a 2-person employee firm. So I'd really ask you to consider this as we're voting on this amendment. What are you doing to those really small businesses, and is this a way to at least exempt some of them so that they can continue? Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Speaker.
Representative Koznick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Lesch, I'm surprised that you're not in favor of Representative Haley's amendment. You're here to support a company like Delta, which I flew with them multiple times in just last month, and by gosh, they've figured out a way to defy gravity. But it's too much time to comply with this bill, and unreasonable accommodations were the words that you used. And for smaller companies, it's even more difficult to run your business and do what you're good at, but then also to try to comply with all these other government regulations. And so I'm really surprised that you're sticking up for a big company, but it's a good company, but you can't support the smaller companies like Representative Haley's bill does. And so I think it's just should be pointed out that it's pretty interesting that you're not for the little guy. So Representative Haley, I stand in support of your motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Madam Speaker. Yeah, I rise in support of Representative Haley's also. You know, I am going to give an analogy on Obamacare, okay? When Obamacare came out, it required employers to provide health insurance for any employee who worked 30 hours or more. Well, there were 2 employers in my area who had very small employers. They had very tight margins, and totaling about probably 35 to 40 in the 2 different businesses. All those employees got moved to 29 hours. They had health insurance. It wasn't a great plan, but after the Obamacare mandate came out, the employer couldn't afford to provide the so-called essential benefits and the skyrocketing premiums, so they lost their health insurance and they got moved to 29 hours a week. And a lot of them had to pick up another part-time job in order to make ends meet. This is the result, the negative result of these well-intended, I know, mandates. You think you're helping, you're actually hurting more than what you're helping. And so please support Representative Haley. Many of these small businesses, again, have very tight margins, and they'll have to lay people off or close in some cases. I got an email from a small business in my district. He said if this passes, he's going to have to he's got about 15 employees, he's going to have to lay off 2 or 3 employees to cover the cost, or reduce other benefits, or make other changes. Again, well-intended, but you don't understand the negative, how tight some small businesses are operating out there. And it's not just a few. It's a lot of them that are very tight. So please support Representative Haley's amendment. Thank you, members.
Further discussion. Representative Lesch.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I think there is some misinformation. I don't know what went on in the Republican caucus, but someone told you that Delta was getting an exemption. Members, Delta already does this. They do it through federal law. They provide all of it. This is simply a record-keeping provision for them because they already do what we're asking them to do. So make no mistake, Representative Koznick, we're not offering a protection for the big guy as against the little guy. We're trying to protect the little guy. I don't know if Delta flies to Alexandria, but if they did, you could fly there and you could go to Herbie's and have Representative Franson sneeze in your coffee. I mean, no one wants to have anyone sneeze in their coffee, right? You should be able to take a sick day. Representative Franson should be able to take a sick day. No sneezing in the coffee. So Delta employees won't sneeze in your coffee. Please do not support the Haley amendment.
Representative Haley.
Representative Lesh, thank you, Madam Speaker. Respectfully, maybe there's some misinformation in your caucus, because what my amendment does, or what I'm telling you and speaking up for, is that you're saying Delta does this. My small employers in my district do this. They just do this without a mandate. I trust the small employers all across the state of Minnesota that employ the majority of our employees. They do this because their workers are like family, and they can't survive in their small business without those workers. So they bend over backwards to help somebody who's sick and to make sure somebody's not sneezing in the coffee, because that's good business. And they wouldn't thrive or survive without it. But they won't thrive and survive if we continue to put pressure on them and tell them that government knows best. That's the point I'm trying to make. They do this already, Representative Lesh. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I ask for your support.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the amendment. The clerk will close the roll. There being 57 ayes and 74 nays, the amendment to the amendment does not prevail, or the motion does not prevail. The amendment to the amendment is not adopted. To the underlying Lesh amendment, Representative Swedzinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would the Chair Lesh yield for a question?
He will yield. Representative Lesh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Lesh, just kind of looking at the bill and kind of looking at unique businesses we all have in our districts beyond you know, obviously we're talking about airplanes and we understand kind of the ins and outs that states go, but we also have a lot of shipping companies. Looking at over-the-road semi-drivers, Anderson Trucking across the state, Old Dominion, many other large trucking firms that have employees that come in, come out, leave the state. As we're kind of going about this, would you be open to have other opportunities or amendments or talking to help craft this to help kind of maybe fit them as this moves forward?
He will yield. Representative Lesh.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker and Representative Swedzinski. We talked to a lot of people. I haven't been approached by Old Dominion or anyone else, but we talked to anyone. I got an open door policy.
Representative Swedzinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just, you know, Representative Lesh, you know, you mentioned that Representative Haley's amendment would cover about a third of the employees across the state. And I would just ask you, you know, the concerns we have on this side of the aisle are real. And maybe 25 isn't the right number, but maybe 5 is. And I would just ask you to really look at that from a small business perspective. When it, you know, when we're demanding things, we as legislators say, we are giving this to you. We are doing this to you, folks. And I think when we're bringing people into the room, that if a business of a smaller stature does ask for some relief for some of these amendments, you really need to, as a caucus, look at that and really look at it and say, and take it to heart, because those are real people that are trying to create jobs and create opportunity across the state and try to become the next big business. And Madam Chair, I'm not sure, but if a roll call has not been requested, I certainly would like one. Thank you.
There is not a roll call on the underlying Lesh amendment, but seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Representative Doubt. Representative Anderson P.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, would Representative Lesh stand for a quick question?
Representative Lesh will yield. Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Chair Lesh, seeing the bill already has an opt-out clause for any business that meets or exceeds this new state program, couldn't Delta just apply for that opt-out like any other business and then be exempted from this onerous record keeping you mentioned? Why is there a special exemption here for Delta when there's already an opt-out in the overall bill?
Representative Lesh.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Perhaps, Representative, you could clarify, there are no opt-outs in the bill, so I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Perhaps you could clarify.
Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Representative, in the study sheet I have, it says employers may apply to the Commissioner for approval to substitute a private plan if it essentially meets or exceeds the state plan you're offering.
Representative Lesh.
So there's prevailing wage provisions. If you already offer prevailing wage, you can offer prevailing wage of your employees, which takes into consideration sick and safe time already in the scope of those prevailing wage provisions, or you can simply offer earned sick and safe time. We expect that most employers would offer earned sick and safe time unless you all just want to apply prevailing wage across the state of Minnesota. But I don't see any nods on the Republican side of the aisle on that. But it's not an opt-out if you're already essentially offering it through prevailing wage.
Further discussion. Representative Doubt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Representative Lesh, thank you for bringing this forward. I would ask members to support this provision. I think it makes sense in this case. I also think it makes sense in a whole bunch of other cases, and I wish I would have had time to craft all the amendments to offer this exemption to everybody else that probably would and should be able to have it as well. I think the idea behind this policy is probably a good one, but the implementation of it is terrible in this bill. So, I think in this case, it makes a lot of sense to support this provision because, number one, they're already doing it, and number two, it would be very difficult for them to probably comply with our state's requirement on top of what they're already doing at the federal level. While the underlying policy is implemented poorly and will hurt many, many employers, both small employers and large employers. And I know we're going to talk later about the other provisions, which frankly are going to tax employees for benefits that they already receive. There are so many problems with these provisions, I don't even know where to begin, but I'm sure before this is over, either tonight or tomorrow morning, we'll have a lot more time to talk about that. But I would ask members to support this provision.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the amendment. The clerk will close the roll. There being 130 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. There is an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Drazkowski moves to amend House File Number 2208. The second engrossment as amended. The amendment is coded A19-0449.
The member from Wabasha, Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, members, this amendment deletes the broadband funding sections from the bill. Members, we have technology around us that is expanding at amazing rates. We have satellite internet that is providing broadband service to all of North America. Everyone in Minnesota has access to broadband technology today at the speeds that are the state standard speeds for upload and download, the 25 megabits per second down and the 3 megabits up. You can just type it in your browser, HughesNet.com, members. Every one of their plans has broadband in it at those speeds. So why are we plowing the people's money into the ground to rot away for future generations to look back and wonder what in the world the state of Minnesota and this legislature did with their money way back when? There are additional companies out there, members. OneWeb that next year will have 650 low-level satellites deployed. The year after, they plan on nearly 2,000 of them to be deployed, offering 2.5 gigabits per second of download service to people all over the planet. Amazon is planning on deploying, they just announced last week, up to 3,220 satellites that will provide extra high-level internet speed to people all over North America and probably all over the planet. Members, we have $70 million in this bill of the people's money that the plan is to throw through these crony capitalist structures that are in the bill, deploy the money to telecom people all around the state, many of which have been showing up in our offices trying to extract this money from you for them. Members, this is the people's money. Let's take the broadband stuff out of the bill. Let the private sector, which is zooming at the speed of light past us now, as we have these silly things in the bill, let them take care of the broadband needs of the state of Minnesota. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Eklund.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I ask you to oppose this Representative Drazkowski's amendment. You haven't been to, Representative Drazkowski, you haven't been to 4647 Highway 11 in International Falls? We've called HughesNet. Right now, my internet is so lousy at my house that my wife and I can't run a laptop at the same time. But when we've called HughesNet, Madam Speaker and members, they tell us you won't be happy with what we have because what you're getting right now is better. Madam Speaker, members, if this amendment passes, it means 185,000 homes and businesses in Minnesota will continue to not have access to the basic levels of service. We've got over 100 groups that are in favor of this bill, as well as the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, which you just got a letter passed out. So I ask you to oppose the Drazkowski amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Itasca, Representative Lehman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to oppose this amendment. I think that the broadband program, the border-to-border broadband program, is the perfect place for the legislature to become involved. What we have here is a public-private partnership. For public investment, we have the private sector doing work that they couldn't do because there's a market failure. In rural and greater Minnesota, the broadband service providers cannot reach everybody and make money. But they are more than willing to do it if they get a little bit of public help. And guess what? It's one-time help. Unlike other infrastructure investments, the state is not on the hook for improvements, for maintenance, for future investment, for one-time investment that's matched by the public sector. We are connecting people to the future. Broadband investment is economic development in greater Minnesota, and I proudly support the $70 million investment that we hopefully will make over the next biennium in broadband. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Blue Earth, Representative Munson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I rise in support of this amendment. The technology that Representative Drazkowski spoke about is actually here. And I know that HughesNet does work in North America, and everyone that has a clear access to the sky. And the reason why a lot of people don't use HughesNet is because it has caps on the data that you download. It isn't unlimited data like some of the other internet service providers have. Currently, their plans start at like 30 gigabytes a month and go up to, you can buy an unlimited amount if you want to, but for $30 or for 30 gigabytes a month, it only costs you $50, and we don't have to spend $5 or $10 or $20,000 of taxpayer dollars to trench in cable to someone's house. Now, why doesn't 30 gigabytes of data work for most families? Because some people like to stream television over the internet. Well, the government should not be involved in subsidizing people to watch television. The reason we talk about bringing internet out to homes is so that people can do telemedicine or kids can do their homework online. You can do homework online all day long, every day of the month, and never burn through 30 gigabytes of data. This is not the role of government to subsidize Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime and HBO Go and Showtime Anytime. That is not the role of government. If we're going to be trenching in cable to people's houses, and by the way, it's almost $6,000 per household now that we've spent, and that's the low-hanging fruit. As we go towards farmhouses that are farther and farther away and go through difficult areas to trench in cable, it's going to be $20,000, $30,000 a household. For what? So that people can watch television. That's not a good use of taxpayer money. Everyone in this room has had bills this year that were not funded. And you have $500,000, $1 million asks. This is $70 million. And this is just a start. This isn't complete every household in the state. This is just what we can do in the next 2 years. Working, and by the way, on the way to work today, I passed 2 vehicles that were broadband companies from Florida and Georgia that were up here, because this is where the money is, because we're doling it out. We're paying for this. Other states aren't doing this, not all the other states. But the technology that Drazkowski spoke about is happening. And by 2021, 2022, we're going to have low-orbiting satellites everywhere in the planet that will have super high-speed internet, 100 times the broadband speeds that we're trying to get to, surpassing us. Private companies are out there doing this. They're in my district putting up fixed wireless. They're putting up transponders on grain legs, bringing 25 meg download to me. I'm happy with my service. The companies aren't expanding as fast as they should be because they're just waiting for that free money from the state. We are slow to do this, but the technology is surpassing us. And there's going to be thousands of low-orbiting satellites by the time you guys have even finished trenching it into the farmhouses in just a few thousand households. So please, members, let's go back to the drawing board and realize what the proper role of government is and support this amendment. Thank you.
Representative Kresha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I rise in support of the broadband program. It's no surprise. I've supported it my entire time here, all the way back to when I first came in the minority. Why? Because I understand how the new workforce is coming. Members, in the last 2 years, the millennial workforce, the 21 to 36-year-olds, have surpassed the baby boomers in jobs. That's what's coming. Let's talk about the millennials for a bit. And we can agree or disagree on this, or agree to disagree on this. Yes, we're using state dollars for this program to invest and allow telecoms who are trying to get to those last hard-to-reach miles, who, by the way, the telecoms have to put up 50% of the funds. on an ROI that just isn't there. And so this is one of the ways to do that. And why do we do this? Let's talk about the millennial workforce. Let's talk about my sons and daughters. Let's talk about many of your sons and daughters. You know this. They work in the gigabyte economy. They will be working, and wherever they go, they are 100% dependent on a gigabyte economy and a gigabyte connection. That's the way it is. Rural Minnesota, our #1 job force that will be moving in, if we invite them and set up and fertilize the ground for them with broadband connections, is millennials. Why? We want them moving back to the homes that they grew up in. We want them moving back to the homesteads. We want them bringing their kids in, raising their families, going to church, paying taxes. That's the way this works. Members, go look at the exodus of workers right now. Here's how it works. The millennials graduate, they go off to college, and then guess what? They may be in Minneapolis and St. Paul, but they're not long there. They're moving to Atlanta, Denver, Dallas, Seattle. They're moving to the places that are conducive to their lifestyle and the way they work. If you look at the data and you look at the migration of the workers, and that's what's important, look at the migration of where people are going. They are not moving from Denver to Minneapolis to Little Falls, Minnesota. They're moving to where the connections are because they can do the jobs. This is a program that supports that. This is how we help invest into the areas to bring in these broadband connections. And we can say, great, get a satellite connection. That's not going to solve this problem. Look at where the workers are moving to. There are people in the Twin Cities who drive around in cars that have better broadband connections than we have in rural Minnesota. This is what the workers are. This is the millennial workforce. And whether or not we can prove to them and you can say to them, hey, I have the connections, or you might have them in Little Falls, but 3 miles outside of Little Falls, we don't have it. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. And so this program has been successful. This program has increased connectivity in rural Minnesota. And I'm going to keep talking all the way up until we stop so that Representative Garofalo cannot contradict everything I say tonight. So you can just sit tight because I got 18 minutes.
Representative Crecia, there's no rule that says we have to go up until midnight.
This is the Garofalo rule, Madam Speaker. This is, and I know Representative Garofalo is going to speak in opposition to this, and I'm going to raise some points. And again, I said we'll agree to disagree on this, but I can tell you this matters to rural Minnesota. This program has worked. I'll defend it. It is government dollars moving in to subsidize an industry, but it's an industry that is trying to get to some of those harder to reach. And so with that, I will yield and allow the next arguments to come along.
Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would Representative Eklund yield for a question?
He will yield. Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Eklund, I feel your pain. You live in a beautiful area of Minnesota, great area of Minnesota, second only to the area that I live in. And as I heard you speaking about the pains of broadband internet connection, it conjured up some of my own experiences in a rural area that I live in. And I've had the pain. So a cabin that I have doesn't have DSL, doesn't have cable even pulled to the house. Satellite is spotty. So I had to think of some more creative ideas. And so the question I would have for you, Representative Eklund, is the mobile phone connection in your area. Is it a strong one, a moderate? Is it a weak one? What is the data, whether it be a AT&T provider, Sprint, whoever the cell phone providers might be?
Representative Eklund.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Lucero, where I live at is commonly known as the Browns Corner dead zone when it comes to cell phone service. I go a quarter mile on either side of my house, and I have better service. But I would rate our cell phone service as just about as spotty as our internet service.
Representative Lucero.
Okay, and that's unfortunate because what I was going to offer you was something that I had to work through. So, as I mentioned, these different broadband options were not available for me and still are not available for me. But I had really good cell strength with the provider I have is AT&T, but Verizon and Sprint and others are out there. So AT&T at the time had I forget the product name, but it was a unlimited data that you could use through it. It was a hotspot, essentially. But then they throttled that back and said that the maximum was 22 gigabytes. So then I explored a cell phone plan. And so the cell phone plans, each mobile phone has the ability to have 15 gigs. So I thought to myself, okay, can I get a cell phone plan and relatively inexpensive pieces of hardware, mobile phones that I could add onto this plan because each one will give me 15 gigs of bandwidth. And lo and behold, I found one that had up to 10 devices I could add to it. Each additional device was $30. And so what I did is I got this plan, and I'm essentially using $40 phones on this plan, and I've put them in hotspot mode, and I'm connecting my wireless devices in my cabin to the mobile hotspot feature on the phone, and I can consume up to 15 gigs per device. Now, when I max out on that device with whatever it is I'm doing, I just power that device off, take the next $40 device that I've already purchased, power it on into hotspot mode, and then continue to use that for the next 15 gigs. Wanted to offer that to you. On that topic of cell phone data being spotty out in Representative Eklund's area, that also then conjured up another experience I had several years ago when I was in Africa. So I was in Africa for my sister's wedding, and one of the things we did in Africa, it was Kenya, one of the things we did was go on a safari. And from Nairobi to the destination where the safari was a good if I recall correctly, 2.5-hour drive. And by the way, the roads in this beautiful country, but the roads in Minnesota here, you think the potholes that we have are bad? Well, the potholes in Minnesota are bad. It'll ruin your suspension, make you get a new alignment. But going to Kenya and the rural roads, the potholes, no joke. They're big enough for your car to go in. You have to drive around. So anyway, we're on this. We're going out to the middle of nowhere. I haven't seen buildings for a long time, many miles. There's no infrastructure to be seen on the horizon. Guess what had full bars? A mobile phone. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world is this physically possible? I haven't seen a cell tower. I haven't seen a building. I haven't seen anything, and I've got full bars. Guess what, members? I go down to the basement hearing room with SOB. How many bars do I have? Zero. And we're in St. Paul. How does that happen? In the middle of nowhere, haven't seen buildings for miles, full bars, here, no bars. So, yeah, I feel a sneeze coming on. Okay, so I see the pencil being waved at me. But the point is, there are options available. Yes, thank you. There are options out there for additional bandwidth. Think creatively, think outside the box. In Representative Eklund's case, it would not work necessarily. But for those, and again, I feel your pain in all seriousness. I feel your pain for those that are in rural areas that don't have broadband in conventional methods available to you. You might explore bandwidth through a mobile phone provider to be able to achieve broadband speeds at a relatively inexpensive price. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that House File 2208 as amended be laid on the table.
Representative Winkler moves that House File 2208 as amended be laid on the table. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. House File 2208 as amended is laid on the table. Representative Winkler. Representative Carlson.
Madam Speaker, members, the Ways and Means Committee will meet at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning in this building, room 120. We'll have the LCCMR bill and the legacy bill up.
Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, we will come in at 9 o'clock tomorrow and continue work on this bill. And when this bill is concluded, we will break for caucus and take up the HHS bill thereafter. And so, Madam Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, adjourn until 9 a.m. Wednesday, April 24th, 2019.
Representative Winkler moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourn until 9 a.m. Wednesday, April 24th. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. Any announcements, members? Representative Dowd or Representative Winkler, any further announcements for your caucus members? Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Winkler moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The House stands adjourned until 9 a.m. Wednesday, April 24th, 2019.